Hi everyone. Well, I'm finally painting in my plein air video out in the open. It's been a while and finally I decided, you know what, there's never a convenient time, right, to try something new. So I got finished with work on time and I thought I'm just gonna go out and I'm gonna paint. So I am painting at one of my favorite spots by the American River Trail. I have, just to show you what I brought with me, I have my 9x12 140-pound watercolor paper. It's nice and thick, so I don't need to tape anything down. I just brought my bag. I always have, you know, those makeup bags you get from bonuses from Clinique or Estee Lauder. I just have it filled, ready to go all the time. And I have a couple things that I pulled out. I have a Tupperware that I have lost the lid to, right? That is acting as my water bottle. So I'm just going to put some water in there. I have my paint, my palette broke, and that made it perfect to just keep from my outdoor painting. So I've got an old paper towel, and so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sketch out some of the flowers around me, and I'll be right back and show you what I have come up with, and then we'll paint together. Okay, so you can see I've got a really loose sketch. What I did is I'm going to peek up, or actually just peek up the video so you can see. So I can see all these pretty purple flowers, and then I've got the river and then the trees. So what I'm trying to do is catching a bit of that. And if I move over here a little bit, actually let me go back up, you can see over here some of the trees that I've emulated in there, and it's a bit of a challenge to get everything in a simple sketch, but we're going to try to do it. What I really want to capture is the essence of the beautiful purple flowers against the backdrop of the water. So that's what I'm going for here. So as I come back over here, I've done a pretty simple sketch and I've only taken up part of the page. I actually have just a limited time this evening. So I knew this was going to be a bit of an experiment that I am just bringing you along for. And so I didn't want to make it too complicated. If you can see here, there's a geese coming by. There's actually quite a few bees floating around, and all around these beautiful purple flowers. I've seen 3 different types so far as I've been sitting here, which has been actually really fun. You may have noticed that the water is actually a bit of like a blue-green. So I'm gonna do an initial blue layer, and then I'm actually gonna put in some green, and I'm just gonna go ahead and just lay this down really pretty lightly because I wanna be able to paint a lot of the flowers, but we're gonna see if I can create that sense of depth of having that water in the background, and then painting the flowers larger up on top. And again, I'm just gonna do a little bit of the blue because I want the flower, and not too dark, I want the flowers to take up more of the I want them to be really prominent. So we're gonna play with this. I'm gonna add in a little bit of green, and then we're gonna go ahead and do the background, and then we'll jump up, and hopefully this will have dried a bit and we can do the foreground of the beautiful purple flowers. It's pretty quiet out right now. I'm catching, it's 5:30 right now, so the sun is starting to set, which is really nice because it's a beautiful day, but it's been getting warm and it's hard to be in the heat. I should have said too, the other things to come with is sunscreen, right? I applied sunscreen all over my face and just my chest to make sure I didn't get burned. I don't really tan. I just burn like a lobster, which is really kind of a bummer. So I've got to watch that. So we're gonna, again, just kind of adding in some color. I'm looking at the river too, and I can pop up again here, and you can see the river's really moving. We've had a lot of water, a lot of rain, and I know they've been letting some water out of the dams, I believe, to make up to, and I think Tahoe's starting to melt a bit, so there could be some movement from that, but there's a lot of twigs in the water too, a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to actually take a little bit more blue where we know it's darker and it's deeper, right, where it's a little bit moving. So I'm going to just move that just a little bit in there and up against the edges, and then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pick up some brown. I probably should have added some more brown in. See, these are the kind of things I was wondering, what am I going to run into where I'm like, oh, I forgot this, I should have added a bit more brown, but we have enough, because really I just need a little bit. I'm gonna just add in my tree trunks and really a little bit on the sandy beach over on the other side. And I'm just gonna add the sky. I'm gonna eliminate some of the trees. We still get to kind of eliminate what we don't want, right? I don't have the time to put everything in. And I think the artist's eye, we're always creating a sense of, we wanna create a sense of whatever we're painting, but we have to know what to leave in and what to leave out. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it's just my own ability of what I can actually do. Okay, so that looks good in there. I'm gonna leave, I'm not gonna do the sky quite yet. I'm gonna do let me do the back of the trees. And you can see this is pretty loose. I'm just kind of looking at them too. I'm kind of looking too where the light's hitting them. The tree, there's definitely quite a bit of yellow in the trees. And then where it's darker, I'm gonna come back and pick up some yellow. And I'm hoping too, this might encourage you to take out your sketchbook. Maybe you don't even bring the paint, maybe you just bring the sketchbook. And you come out, it's really nice. It's completely different. You definitely feel a little bit like that lack of control. The studio does bring, you know, whether your studio is the kitchen table or you have something more formal or it's your bedroom floor, which for most of my life, it was just the floor or my bed in the bedroom. And so whatever it is, there's just always a sense of control that you come outside and it's a bit of an adventure. A bit of an adventure. Okay, I'm gonna just add in the trees over there. The blue sky, I'm gonna just put that in a little bit, right? Just again, loose, loose, loose. Ooh. A bee is floating by. They actually don't bother me. And I think honestly, the flowers around me are what they're really more interested in. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more blue as well to my water over here. And over here where I just want to be a little bit darker up on the edges. Okay, great. So there we have the background, right? Again, nice and loose. Now I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna do just a little bit of maybe some dirt where I'm sitting, just to create at least a sense of a border, since I'm not gonna paint all the way down. And I'm trying to pick up my favorite warm burnt sienna. If you've painted with me before, you know I love burnt sienna. It's my favorite brown. It's so versatile, and I'm kind of just gonna make a diagonal edge, come a little bit to where I can see the edge where the cliff, it feels like a bit of an exaggeration. But, oh, I do have a little bit more. Okay, there it is in the corner. I've got a little bit of that brown, and I'm just gonna add that in. And I'm also gonna look across the way and where it's more shadows, a little bit on my trees, right? I'll have to come back to. And even over on my beach where there's just some movement, there's different shadows playing on that beach. It's kind of a dirt beach, but there was a dog a little while ago and he was just barking up a storm. It was actually really cute. And the guy was with him, was playing music, and then they left. So now it's really, really quiet over here. It's really quiet. I'm gonna go ahead in. I'm gonna just start adding in green, and the flowers are purple. They're beautiful violet and purple. And the purple is gonna go really nicely with the green. It's gonna create a beautiful, some added depth of color. So I'm not too concerned about them merging. Versus if there's some really pretty pink flowers, but I didn't want to paint those, try to paint them live, because I knew if I paint too loosely the pink and the green, they just turn to brown, and that's never any good. And I'm really hoping, I will tell you, this is all an experiment. I don't have a microphone, and so I'm still hoping that you'll be able to hear me just fine as well. So we're about 8 minutes in, and I'm just still coming around here. I'm gonna add in some more greenery too down here, adding in down here, and just kind of coming down. I wasn't sure what exactly I was going to do, but I knew there was so much green that I could easily start doing some loose leaves. I didn't have to do everything in ink. I just wanted to kind of get a feel for it, of how it was gonna look. So even this, I'm gonna go all the way down the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to extend some of my stems all the way down here as well, all the way down to my diagonal edge, and then I can come back and do some more pin work later. Again, just bringing that in. There's a lot of like curlies, which is really pretty. And so, okay, this guy's actually a stick that's sticking out, so I'm gonna have to come back and add some brown to him in a little bit. I have a tiny brush. This is a size 2. You can see it's super tiny. So I'm going to use that one for my purple, and I have dioxazine purple. Oh, and there's a plane overhead. There's those geese again. They're coming back over. I'm going to come, now the edges of these flowers are almost like a super light violet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to almost just leave them white at the ends, and I might add just a touch of pink just at the ends, just to show that shift and more of a violet instead of, they're not a complete solid purple. In fact, as I continue to look at them, I see about 3 or 4 different shades of like a purple and even a bit of a pink. So we're gonna have to add in some more color here. And again, I'm just kind of going around, and you see how pretty that is. It's just, you know, nature's color palette is beautiful. Like when God created the seasons, I just think it's so fascinating how the colors are the most perfect colors. Okay, so continue to move on. Coming back around over here. There was a bike that just really came by on the trail. Thankfully, I'm off the trail, just a little bit off on my favorite stump over here. Okay, so I'm going to do a few more of these, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of pink. Just, and like not tons, but just at the edges too. I want to keep it wet enough that it's going to blend, but not too wet that it's going to overtake my paper. This particular pad is actually really good for bringing with me. I don't have to tape the edges down, but I also am intentional about not getting it too wet, because that does tend to curve the pages. So I've got to be mindful of that. Okay, I'm going to come back over here. These were some baby flowers. And then coming down over here. And then over here as well. I'm recording everything on my phone today. I wasn't sure about bringing the recording camera out and setting that up. So again, a bit of an experiment. You'll have to tell me how it looks and feels from your end. Coming over here, these guys. Okay, starting to come to a finish here as far as just that initial sketch. I can see too, I can get everything, I'm going to change this a little bit. I can get it a bit thicker down here, but I also can bring it back to the studio and add some thickness too. I had a couple of bees that I added in here. Again, I'm just going to bring this all the way down. That was one of that's the big stick that's sticking up. You can see too, I'm painting pretty lightly. And I really could spend some time thickening up and really like extending out all of this, because it is pretty thick out here. There's a lot of overgrowth. So as I'm looking around, it's a little bit crazy. It's just wild overgrowth. So you think to yourself, you know, how much do I add in? How much do I leave out? When does it look beautiful, and then when does it just look messy? And let's be honest too, sometimes with plein air, it can be super messy. But I think what I'll do too is I'm gonna let this initial layer dry, and then I'm gonna come back in. I will probably paint the bees after it dries. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's gonna get real messy. I am gonna finish up these beautiful leaves though. These were just different new leaves that are growing, and everything's coming out over here. Okay, all right, so we're just about finished with this first layer, and then I think I will go ahead and finish it up in the studio. But this was a really fun first layer. I'm going to actually show you some of the pictures of the purple flowers too. So just one more look at how these guys look, and you can see, isn't that beautiful? They're really, really pretty though. They're absolutely gorgeous, and you can see just all the different colors in the pink. They're quite vivid. Okay, we are back in the studio this morning, and I just wanted to show you what I had done. The water, I ended up having quite a bit of paint on there, so it is bending a bit here. And what I'll end up doing is I'll just put this candle back over it, let it kind of reshape itself back out, but you can do that too if you find that you get home and you've got some water bending. So I thickened up some of my greenery in here. I came back and added more detail to fill it in. I'm gonna just do a little bit more now. I wanted to make these flowers kind of pop off the foreground, and it was a pretty crazy bush of flowers, right? There was a lot going on. So I knew it was gonna be a little bit messy. I'm just gonna come back up here. I just see a few more leaves that I wanna add in. I try to keep with the original colors. I'm just gonna bring this down here. And the original colors being the green, the purple, just a little bit of pink. We had some yellow that I was adding in as well. And I'm gonna add some leaves over here. Off of these stems, I added the little bee very faintly right here. You'll see too, I thickened up some of the shading that was going on in those trees. And I'm gonna do just a little bit more of that now with just on that background. So coming back in with the yellow, I'm gonna come actually over here. We're gonna loosen up that color just a little bit over there and just thickening up some of the background, the bushes that are along that area. They're pretty solid. There's a lot of bushes, a lot of trees and growth. There's a lot of different colors of greens and yellows. So I wanted to loosen that up a little bit so it didn't look quite so harsh. I'm gonna come back in though with my green and add in just a little bit of color with those leaves over here and even in here, some of the bushes. So we're moving that around, adding in color too where there's more shadowing, and even against on the background, on the backdrop back here as well by this tree. Coming back to, I'm gonna add a tree trunk where I saw one over here that I forgot to add in yesterday. And a lot of times whenever I'm looking at my paper or at the watercolor, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what did I forget? What did I forget to add in? And we got a little bit of brown in there, but that's okay. I'm gonna go a little bit deeper brown over here in some of these areas, in the area against the beach, kind of the dirt beach line down here. Move that paint around a little bit, but just detail work. Really. And if you see anything getting a little bit out of hand, you can always come back in with your paper towel and just stab at it. Just kind of soften everything up. I'm gonna leave the water as is. I had created a little bit more brushes out here, and I'm gonna add those up right in here. And you know what? We're gonna pretty much call that a day. I just wanted to again come back into the studio. And of course, you know, the nice thing about being out there yesterday is I could take a few pictures and refer back to those for details. There does get to a point where you don't want to add in too much where it gets super messy, but I wanted to create a contrast of what was in the foreground versus the background. And I can add some notes about my day down here, so that makes a really nice journal area. And overall, I am happy with this as my first outdoors painting session of 2023. Definitely a learning experience, and I'm definitely going to be going back out. So let me know what you think, if this encourages you to start painting outdoors, and if you do want to paint outdoors, where are you going to go paint? I would love to hear in the comments below.